screaming in pain and sorrow. In legend and in fact, it is known as
Am I a shit anarchist? Bit of a shitty question to ask someone, really, when they profess to be something, calling them a pretty shit one. There's someone, Arch, this video's just for you, who keeps going on about this, but not the only one who have. And I've recently been working on Rachel Haywire's presidential campaign, Transhumanist Party, doing some promo videos and stuff, and she's an anarchist. So I've been thinking about it some more, and I've had to explain it to a few people. Again, the first thing you have to understand is that for me, an ideology isn't necessarily a guiding principle on everything in life. It's more of a utopian ideal. It's something you might work towards. But you have to compromise. In life there is always compromise, and for me, pragmatism always outstrips ideology. So while my utopian ideal might be a version of left-anarchism, perhaps anarcho-technocracy or individual mutualism, some kind of left anarchy, I recognize that I don't think that is possible unless we get into a state of post-scarcity where there is no need for competition for things, where we can all essentially have as much as we need and a little bit more. So and that's not something that's imminently possible, more because of political will rather than anything else, really. But still, so it's an unattainable ideal, but it helps give me some other principles which I can then apply through a filter of pragmatism. Another thing worth pointing out here is that a lot of people think anarchy means chaos, riots, disorder, every man for himself, and some even would want that. Libertarians seem to be in that camp. They want anarchy as chaos. They want a state of nature red in tooth and claw, because they all assume that they'd be in the upper echelons of that order, which they probably wouldn't be. But that's not what I mean. What I mean is a voluntary, cooperative version of governance. So without leaders, but not without order, right? So ideally, if at all possible, we should arrange things on that basis, I think. I think there should be the minimum possible arm twisting, but I also recognize that arm twisting is necessary, that things like taxation and so on are necessary, that police forces and so on are necessary in the paradigm in which we find ourselves. So when I filter it through that pragmatism, I'm also always doing a certain moral and ethical calculus when I decide on my positions. So what provides the greatest freedom for the greatest number of people? And there's always two kinds of freedom that are in constant conflict with one another. There's the freedom to do something, and there's the freedom from having something done to you, right? So sometimes you have to take away from one to provide the other, or sometimes vice versa. You've probably heard the phrase, "Your right to swing your fist ends at the tip of my nose," right? So that's your freedom to coming into contact with someone's freedom from being punched in the face. And so freedom to is the one that gives way in that instance, and typically that's the one. So when I pragmatically support socialism, in the proper meaning of the word, it's because that provides the greatest freedom for the greatest number of people, right? And when I support something like the European Union, it's because it provides the greatest freedom for the greatest number of people, right? There's that common principle there. There's always going to be some winners and some losers. No system is perfect, but what benefits the most people the most? And the EU is a good case in point, because it's an example of a voluntarist system albeit at the nation state level, and the nations might be dragging people who aren't so keen along with them. But it's still a voluntary association. It's a series of treaties between a number of nations, voluntarily synchronizing trade, economics, a certain degree of military cooperation, and so on, and all benefiting from it. Humans are a social species, and a huge amount of our success is down to our ability to cooperate. We're part ant and I don't know, part some single wandering predator or something, part lion. Maybe they would work in packs. I don't know. There's someone said something similar. So we're part social and we're part individual, and so many of the conflicts in our society are conflicts between that collective urge, that altruistic urge, and that selfish individualistic urge. But what tends to give the greatest freedom for the greatest number is that cooperative, macro, community level thinking. So the EU is a voluntary organisation that provides and protects freedoms for people. So obviously, if I want the greatest freedom for the greatest number of people, obviously I back the European Union. It doesn't make me a statist per se, it just means I can recognise that some things are better than others, right? There's always a lesser evil or a slightly less worse choice, That's just how it operates, and that's the world we have to live in. And even while working for something better or something different, you can still make choices or campaign for something that's the least worst option or the best of the options available. And I don't think that makes me a shit anarchist. I think that makes me pragmatic, and I think ideals have to give way to pragmatism to some extent in any society. It's the people that won't compromise that you have to worry about, I think, not those who are willing to bow to reality. So no, I'm not a shit anarchist. I'm a realistic anarchist. Zang.